Hi, welcome back to Notably Emily. I'm Emily and I'm so glad you're here. If you're in a journaling slump right now, you're definitely not alone. It can feel really hard to start journaling again after some time away, especially as a perfectionist and someone who just wants everything to look beautiful and be perfect. There's a lot of pressure there. I'm also a recovering perfectionist, and I'll be covering all of the things I've done in the past to help me through journaling slumps, and hopefully you will also find them helpful. This video is sponsored by Leuchtturm 1917. You can check the description for a link and a discount code for 20% off on their Canadian website using my code Emily20. The first and most important thing when trying to start journaling again, especially as a perfectionist, is to actually forgive yourself. Forgive yourself for not journaling maybe as much as you wanted to in the way that you wanted to, or maybe your pages don't come out in the way that you were hoping. Journaling is a hobby. It's also an amazing tool you can use for all kinds of self-development and growth and as a creative outlet. And it's supposed to be something that makes you happy, feel more grounded, or give you a space to be creative. And sometimes life gets in the way, and that is totally okay. It happens. I found sometimes my guilt over not journaling is actually what keeps me from picking up a pen, which is so backwards, but it is the truth. So my first suggestion is to forgive yourself and let go of any pressure you're putting on yourself to journal or to keep up with it in this perfect, ideal way that you've decided on in your mind. As an example, I can show you how far behind I am right now in my 5-year journal. Today is December 10th, and the last time I filled in a page in my 5-year journal was November 26th. So I'm a couple weeks behind, but that is totally all right. I'm not beating myself up about it. I know that I'll get back to it when I can. And that is the key to giving yourself the space and the kindness so that you can come back to it and it's not something you're putting pressure on yourself about. A tangible way that you can work on forgiving yourself and practicing self-compassion is to actually write a letter to yourself in your journal. You can write about how you're feeling about being away from journaling for a while, write about how you're committing to let go of any pressure or guilt that you have, and that you're going to promise yourself you will be kind to yourself and just meet yourself where you're at. And it might seem silly to write a letter to yourself in your own journal, but trust me, it does help, and giving yourself that permission can help alleviate that block for the journal slump in some cases. Another way you can get inspired to journal again is actually to assess your current journal system and how you're using your journals. I need to do this for 2024. I haven't nailed it down fully yet because I have quite a few journals that I'm trying to use. But if your journals aren't helping you achieve your goals, then maybe that's why you aren't journaling. And that was the case for me during 2023. I had to reassess what the heck I was actually trying to do with my journals and my journal system. So if that's something that you think could be helpful for you, here are a few questions that you could answer in your journal to help you get a better sense of your system and your goals. What do I get out of journaling? What is my current journaling system? What journals are in there and how am I using them? What isn't working for me and what works well? And finally, how can I change what isn't working and do more of what I enjoy? These are a few questions that I ask in my more in-depth video about assessing your current journal system and creating the one that works for you. So I will link that up above and down below if you want to learn a little bit more about assessing your system in depth. That really helped me have a whole refresh and decide how I wanted to move forward. So I would definitely suggest it if that sounds at all interesting to you. The next tip that I have is to change how you usually journal. Experimenting with how you normally journal and doing something a bit different can take some of the pressure off and also make it seem like a fun experiment instead of something that you have to do perfectly. If you tend to do short form journaling like a daily log or just a few lines a day, maybe try using something like a journal prompt to get yourself journaling in the long form. If you do stream of consciousness journaling, try planning out your week in your journal pages and making it super practical and see how that works for you. You can also try collaging, using a bunch of supplies instead of writing anything down at all if you tend to write a lot. There's a bunch of different ways you can use your journal in a new way that could refresh or create a spark for you that gives you an idea to move forward or make you want to come back to your journals. My next piece of advice would be to refresh your supplies. And what I mean by that is changing up the stationery that you're using. I personally have a lot of stationery, and in the past year I've slowed down on my buying to focus on using what I have, because I frequently surprise myself on what I actually do have when I open up a drawer I don't look at very often. So digging through your stash and seeing if you can find something that makes you feel inspired is a great way to jumpstart your inspiration. Using supplies you haven't in a long time or that you forgot about can give you that new stationery feeling, even though it was already in your stash, like shopping your stash. Using a color scheme, you can look up color palettes on Pinterest or on Google to get yourself in the mood, or a pen or a washi tape that you never really reach for can make it seem like a new experience and give yourself a little bit of a creative challenge. Another idea is to pare down your stash and pick a few things from each stationery category and leave it in a tray or a box on your desk. That way you aren't overwhelmed by what you have, since you've already reduced your stash to a small amount. And you can challenge yourself to use just those supplies for the next week or even just for the next month and see what happens, and if that makes you want to journal more. Sometimes having too many options and too many choices to make can make it seem more like work instead of fun. Something that never fails me is refreshing my space. Sometimes I'm guilty of leaving my desk full of stationery and crafting supplies if I'm reorganizing or looking for something, and it doesn't make me want to come back to my desk because it's a total mess. And other times things do look organized, but the space itself doesn't spark inspiration or feel super inviting. So if you feel the same way, it might be time to refresh your space. It can be as small as putting all your stationery and supplies back in their rightful place and making it look a little bit nice and neat. Or it can be as large as reorganizing your entire collection of craft and stationery supplies. Moving around some plants, decorations on your desk can do a lot to make it feel like a new start and a fresh space and something different for you to come back to on your desk or the space where you usually journal. Sometimes when I don't want to journal, especially the more creative kind of journaling, I really need to gather some inspiration, and it truly is everywhere when you're looking for it. You can follow journalers and creatives and gather some ideas and inspiration from them to try yourself. You can watch Techo Kaigi or journal system videos like the ones that I have to help you decide how you want to organize your journals, or just see what other people are doing, which can be really fun. A journal with me video can be great as well to make you feel like you're sitting down with a friend or chatting with someone who also enjoys stationery. I have a few of those, and that way we can journal together, and it might not seem like such a solitary activity if that's something that you're looking for. You could also look through Pinterest, Instagram, TikTok for inspiration and ideas. I do have some Pinterest boards myself. I will link you to one that is all about prompts for self-discovery if that's something you think would be interesting for you. And I reference that sometimes and use those prompts when I'm just not really feeling like doing any other kind of journaling. My tip here though would be, don't get stuck in just inspiration mode and just pin 100 pins and then not do any actual journaling. Gather a few ideas, maybe 3 or 5 that really seem to spark your interest. Stop there and then commit to trying them out right away, or recreating them, or using whatever you found inspiring to make your own journal spreads. That way you're actually taking action and you're not just taking in a bunch of inspiration without doing anything about it. Finally, of course, there is the advice to buy new supplies. Who doesn't love buying new supplies, right? It can be very inspiring and exciting to get a new stationery item or 5 in the mail. I mean, it's a part of the hobby. It's fun to try out new things, and I'm not here to judge how much or how little that you spend. I just have a love-hate relationship with the idea of buying new supplies specifically to inspire you to start journaling again. I firmly believe that buying new supplies is more of a short-term solution unless it's a necessary tool, something that will help you jumpstart your creativity or help you start journaling again for the long term. Or if you're someone just getting into the hobby and you want to try out a few things, of course, that's fine. But if you already have a mountain of unused washi tape, for example, it's unlikely that buying more will sustain your journaling practice. If you find buying new supplies is your go-to solution usually, and you find yourself right back where you started, feeling uninspired and not really journaling a lot, I would suggest using all the other tips in this video first before you try this out again. Sometimes physically, like closing a chapter and finishing a journal or saying, I'm finished with this chapter, I'm going to move on to the next one, can be a great symbolic and tangible gesture towards starting again without holding yourself back. If you're close to finishing your journal and need a new one, or you want to move on to the next one, I would definitely suggest Leuchtturm 1917 journals. I've been a longtime lover and user of their journals since 2018, and I will likely continue using them for life. It has fountain pen friendly paper, lots of colors to choose from. They're a really great option for pretty much any type of journaling that you want to do, and I always reach for mine, so I highly recommend them. You can use Emily20 for 20% off of their Canadian website. As a final note, if you have a mountain of unused journals, I would suggest not purchasing a new one to jumpstart your inspiration, and instead just move into that new journal and start using it. I have a video on how I start a new journal if you need some inspiration there too. If I missed anything that you like to do to jumpstart your inspiration and get you back into journaling, please let me know in the comments. Otherwise, I will see you in the next video. Bye.